Whatever happened to the Windstedt house game? I ask myself that a lot. Even if there are some questions you don't want to know the answer to. Can you lose a computer program? Nothing's ever lost on the internet, they say. But we lost it. And I don't want to see it. Ever again. We had a good gig, a good hustle. There were 3 of us. Marty was the tech. I had the rig for the mapping, he was doing the level design. You know, a guy like him, slacker blonde, permanent half-shaven look. Either on his way up or coming back down. Good though, real good at what he did. Zoe was going to do some sound design. She had a smattering of acne, one of the 2 things she carried from her teenage years. The other one was that you'd never see her without shirt sleeves for some reason. Big fan of monster drinks. Pheromane on Overwatch. Had a side thing with an experimental brand, some kind of electronic dance mashup. And me? I was going to do the story for our game. Creepy stuff was in. VR games are still doing well. Hell, they even made Slender Man into a movie. A friend of mine ran this local ghost tour. It wasn't great on TripAdvisor, but they had a couple of real deals. Reviews put the old Windstedt house the highlight of the tour. More the hype than anything else. Man kills his family in the night, big on local news. We're a smallish city. It sticks. You know what I mean? It's been more than 20 years. You find the story on some specialist sites, local guides and stuff, but nothing big. Family man goes off the deep end, disappears for days. People finally called the cops. 2 boys and his wife were long dead, and messily so. The Windstedt family was a household of 5. And to this day, the last boy was never found. Not that the cops were in a rush at the time. Charles Windstedt had the time to scribe the walls with the blood of his kin. All manner of strange runic symbols, probably an elaborate plan to plead insanity. Nothing about the case made sense. They'd gotten people down from the university to translate, even sent photographs of the scene to the bigger department upstate, but nobody could decipher the strange script. To the chair, Mr. Windstedt went, blabbering about not being alone in the house, about the things that he'd written for the dark lady of the house. Good local legend. And we were going to cash in. The plan was simple. We were going to get into the Windstedt house, map the interior with the same thing they use for real estate websites, and render it in fully immersive VR. Marty was going to rebuild the house as it was on the night of the Windstedt murders. Zoe was going to work her magic, and I'd reweave the crazed mythos Charlie Windstedt spun on the dock. Not that there was much to go on. There were reports back in the day. Some industrious soul had even scanned some old newspaper clippings, enough to see the released mugshot of the man himself. Guy had soldier's looks about him. Gaunt, cheeks sunken in, eyes empty. Worst of all, what was visible of his arms was covered in the slowly healing scars of his own self-mutilation. Found the time to carve those runic symbols into his own flesh. Same as the one they'd found in the house. It's the perfect setup. Charles's madness. The setting. I've been lurking on nosleep and the various Creepypasta websites for years. Cribbing something together wasn't going to be a problem. When you think back, when you go over everything you've done, there's a point where you say, this is where it all went to shit. The last viable save. A fork in the road. We shouldn't have gone into the Windstedt house. Of course, we didn't know it at the time. Things were good. We were going to make something fantastic. Do you want me to say that there was something in the Windstedt house that was unnaturally cold to the touch, that there was something at the edge of sight and sound beyond hearing? No. Perfectly dull afternoon. Heat of the summer, having driven all tourists and city folk alike away from the attraction. Besides, it was more popular when the ghost tours had started after dinner. The shadows and lateness of the day did more to inspire fear than the patchwork hodgepodge of the building's backstory did. What's there to say about the Windstedt house? 2-story house in the suburbs, where designs hadn't changed in half a century. The normal complement of bedrooms, living room, and kitchen. The walls clean and done up in slightly more modern style, wallpaper over murder, wooden floorboards over dried blood, paint over death. Plinths detailed the slayings in exquisite minutiae. Clippings. Crime scene photos. Interviews with the cops. The forensic techs, the lot. Old Charles had left a hell of a mess. Marty worked his magic. It took a week before we had a haunted house to walk through. Version 0.4. The first time Zoe and I sat in her room, going through a digital version of the Windstedt house, I let her go first. She needed the magic of that first impression, building up the kind of music that she'd put in, the footsteps on floorboards, the growl of traffic from the road beyond the walls. I was lost in my own world, thinking what Charles's dark lady would be like. A malevolent spirit, maybe something like from the movie Sinister, something dark and in the shadows all the time. There's a formula there, you need to know how to tap into it. Some of those base fears you get so often in writing forums. But there we were. Top of the roller coaster. Not knowing what was coming next, not knowing the little things, the panicking animals before a quake. The quiet stillness before a storm hits. The water racing away from the beach. It's amazing, Zoe said. It's like being there. Marty removed all the tourist bits as well. Busy little man, huh? It's weird. All the photographs in the house aren't rendered properly. Wait, that's not right. They're all turned backwards. How do you interact with things again? Targeting reticle, press E, I think, I said. Basic control scheme we copied from everywhere else. There were clicks as Zoe moved in game, with me standing behind her looking at the top of her head with the Oculus rig on. The straps sitting on her close-cropped brown hair. There was a sharp intake of breath, somewhere between a gasp and a squeak, and Zoe tore the setup from her head. God damn it, she said. What's wrong? See for yourself, Zoe said, handing me the visor. It was like being back in the house again, in HD. Zoe was right, all the pictures in the house had been turned around. I navigated myself towards one of them, interacted with it. The photo wasn't of the Windstedt family. It was of Marty, Zoe, and me. Version 0.55. Marty wasn't on our Slack chat and he didn't pick up his phone. No double ticks on the messages we sent him. Zoe and I were getting worried, but it would have taken us a lot to Uber down to his place. It wasn't unlike him to go dark for a while. A dumbass prank like putting our pictures in a horror game? GG on him. Zoe did her own parting, sending sound files over to Marty, never sure if he received them. On the other hand, I spent my time dreaming up a fitting monster for a haunted house. Not Charles, of course, but the thing he made up for his defense. I'd like to think there was some sordid history to the Windstedt house. History of weird stuff. Desecrated burial ground. Former cult home. Nothing. No records as far as I could find. Looking back now, maybe I was hoping for the world to make sense. If Charles Windstedt's madness made sense. If it had a beginning, there would be a reason for what happened to us. But there's nothing. His descriptions of the Dark Lady, the presence that haunted him, they were fragmentary, vague. Ramblings, terrors in the night of a grown man perhaps unable to face the consequences of his own demons. Nothing for me to work with. Zoe called me over. Marty had sent a new version of our game over. She didn't want to get any more surprises. Look, she said as she let me in. You have to go with the game first. I have no idea what sick joke Marty's playing at, but I'm not going to go first. Just like that, I was back at the Windstedt house. The house was slowly coming alive. Zoe had incorporated sound into the game. I had footsteps. There was a radio playing in the background, music that hadn't been heard in decades. The game seemed realer than most, perhaps because I'd been in the house myself a few weeks back. There was a sensation of disorientation as I navigated my way through the kitchen, living room, up the stairs to the bedroom, where the deeds had taken place. Press E to interact. That's what I had said to Zoe. I did the same and I froze. The disembodied arm that my digital avatar used to press one of the doors open was familiar. The tattoo over the forearm. It was mine. Marty had put my arm in the game. What the hell? It was over the roar of the blood in my ears, a swelling pressure at my temples, rising with my temper. That's why it took me some time to realize what was off with the sound in the game. My footsteps. There was an echo to them, an audio stutter. As though there were two sets of footsteps, or as though there was someone or something walking behind me. I couldn't find it. Not by spinning the controller fast, not by looking for a mirror. Mirrors were difficult to code. Ours were just shiny slates for now. As I raced through the second floor, the footsteps chased me. It felt like the walls were closing in, running back into the corridor, and I found my walls covered in the same angular, runic writing that first responders had described. It's a nice effect, though, Marty. Marty, it was very effective. To layer panic on top of this, I grew aware of the sound of breathing behind me, rasping and ragged. In addition to the footsteps, a rattle to the breath, as though drawing air into lungs. Choked with disease. Still, I couldn't find the thing chasing me. I was back on the second floor, up the stairs and looking down the corridor with all the bedroom doors. I counted 4. And that didn't sound right. It took me a while. The 4th door wasn't from the Windstedt house. It wouldn't even make architectural sense. In the Windstedt house, a window had been at the end of the corridor on the second floor. If this door was real, the room behind it was floating in the air. The door loomed large in front of me. The breathing of my pursuer, the mysterious dark lady, Charles Windstedt. It grew louder behind me, except you don't quite get surround sound from headphones, do you? The walls dripping from the Windsted's inscription seemed to be closing in. No, if there was the sound of breathing, it was really from behind me. I felt the gentlest caress of breath on the back of my neck, making the small hairs there tickle. Okay, Zoe, you had your fun. Marty got you last time, now you got me. I yelled, taking my hands off the keyboard and leaving the unknown door there in my field of view. Zoe answered from the kitchen. She wasn't behind me. Version 0.6. Marty's place was exactly how you'd pictured it. Not a great part of town, 2 roommates whose names he'd forgotten, smelled roughly of the stale laundry and unaired cigarette smoke and unwashed bodies. Zoe heard what I said. She wasn't going to talk to Marty. She wanted an out, and the game was going down the drain. So I had to speak to him. He answered the door at the 3rd ring, and it was obvious from the growth of beard and sweat stains on his shirt that it had been some time since a shower. Marty had a look of a man hunted, dark circles under his eyes, hands shivering. My anger dissipated. It was hard to remain furious at this wreck of a person. I told him about the reception his little Easter eggs were having. I didn't appreciate him putting in things like the Dark Lady sequence before I'd finished up the story. Marty grew agitated. I didn't put in any enemy entities yet, he said. What? All I've been working on is environments, but the programming, it's all over the place. Every time I save something, it gets jumbled up. The versions don't make sense. It's like I save something else loads. There's no adversary in the game at all. Look, I know what I saw. You sent us 0.55 the other day. Latest stable build is 0.5, dude. Can't get the bugs out. I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. Something in the house. We were inviting something back with us. There's something wrong with the programming. It's what we're trying to bring into this world. Marty was starting to sound as crazy as our resident murderer. Next he'd tell me that a dark lady was making him do it. Then I remembered the cool breath on my neck. And I bit my tongue. That just sounds stupid, Marty, I said. But I couldn't shake off the shock of hearing Zoe's voice from the next room. The feel of someone behind me. Zoe messaging us all on Slack. She thanked Marty for version 0.6. She said that she'd get back to us on any bugs and suggestions by the end of the week. I looked to Marty. He shook his head. he hadn't sent us this version either. The front door wasn't locked. Zoe's place was dark. She didn't need the lights on to get into the Windstedt house game. We found her in front of the computer plugged in. When we turned the lights on, we saw the blood. For once, she wasn't wearing anything with sleeves. We could see her pale arms, except now they were covered with that same angular runes from the Windstedt house, the same ones that I'd seen in the game. She'd carved up her arms and other patches of skin beside the back of her neck, maybe her legs. Marty called out to her. She didn't respond. I held up a hand to stop him from pulling the rig from her head. Who knew what she was seeing in there? Zoe, can you hear me? Just a whisper, hoping I could get through. She nodded, the movement slight, imperceptible. Her hands were shaking over the keyboard. I'm turning off the game, okay? A shake of the head, so violent that her hair whipped across my face. Okay, we'll take this slow. You can shut it down from the inside. Another head shake. Tell me what you see, Zoe. Where are you? Windstedt house. It's dark out. It's the night. I can see you. You're all in here with me. And her, the dark lady. The other one in the house, she's in here with us. The walls are red, the writing is necessary. What does it say, Zoe? I put my hand over hers, trying to pry it away from the controls. Her grip was death tight, fingers locked into claws. It's all the way dark now. Only the writing to show the way. Even with my eyes closed, I can see the runes. We need to go to the last door. Marty had enough. He grabbed the Oculus and ripped it off Zoe's head, throwing a few $100 worth of electronics straight into the ground. The look on Zoe's face is something that still haunts me. The focus of her eyes on something not there. The rig was off, but Zoe wasn't seeing anything in her room. She was still in the Windstedt house. There were two of us there. Zoe was of average size, but when she got up, made a sprint down the corridor of her apartment, neither of us was strong enough to stop her. I made a grab for her, but her arms were slick with blood and she slid from my grasp. She scampered down the corridor to her own bedroom, and I was just a little behind. The lights in the apartment did a little staccato dance in the seconds it took us to cover the distance, beating out Morse code in light and shadow, and in one of the blinks, I thought I saw the Windstedt house. Longer than it had any right to be, and with secrets etched into the walls. Zoe got to her room, got to the last door, and slammed it in my face. The lights came up. Marty caught up. And we got her door open. She was already gone. I suppose you'll hear about the missing girl in the news. Maybe you won't. I mean, there are a lot of them that go missing. Cops have been around once. I was on Zoe's messages and contacts. They'll be around again if they connect the dots. Maybe you'll hear about that. Maybe you won't. Marty and I don't keep in touch anymore. I've seen him around in the overlapping spaces that we still share, forums, even on the street once or twice. Looks like he doesn't sleep well. Just like me. I don't ask how often he returns to the Windstedt house in his dreams. I'm sure he's scoured his computer for traces of the game, as have I. The temptation would be too high otherwise. There's no need. I see the house in my dreams, I hear the breathing of the dark lady, and I feel the pull of the last door. The game will never be finished. I don't think it needs to be. It got from Marty's computer to Zoe's. That was the other thing Marty and I never talked about. Before we left Zoe's place for the last time, we checked the ongoing traffic from her computer, and we don't know We don't know if Zoe did it of her own volition, or if the game found its way out. There's no difference. It's out there now. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and we are back after Halloween. So, I want to give a big thank you to my Patreons. Those specifically are the ones that are in the description, and Joey Gilbert, Daniel Poulsen, Trace Miles, Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Wayne Milstead, Chumpinski, Ken Lando Higuchi, Brianna Tine-Janzen, Buddy Burroughs, Stephen VanHuss, Tristain Pelton, G Weevil 3, Asia, the Red Oak Shield Virus, Sandy Barney, Nico Kaeo, Caleb Dougal, Dante Rao, Last Blade Song, The Ginger Bros, Don Mewmeister, Eliminator 86, Nebsky, Alex, Steampunk Sinner, The Rafael Rodriguez, Optimistic Avocado, and Dr. Strawberry. If you guys would like to join them, you can always head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. Even helping with $1 actually helps keep me alive. So, a big thank you to all of you who are there from $1 all the way up to however much that you guys give. Thank you. I appreciate you guys subscribing and checking back with the channel every single day because, dear Lord help me, we are on daily uploads, meaning new horror stories from me here at MrCreepyPasta on YouTube or MrCreepyPasta on Spotify. Sweet dreams, kids.